Allyship means we never stop learning. How much do you actually know about sex work? After training thousands of learners over the past 10 years, Living in Community has developed an online self-directed training program to learn more about sex work, including what it is, how stigma plays a role, and how best to support sex workers in your work, life, and community. For more info on the 4 modules, including topics like human trafficking, best practices for service providers, the impacts of Canadian law, and more, go to livingincommunity.ca. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage, aka Sia on camera on most other adult websites and places you can find me. I am a cam model. I am slowly retiring from exotic dancing, so you probably can't see me in much places anymore in person. And I was a sugar baby for many years. Have been doing this show for the past 5 years. So if you are a long-time listener, thank you so much for all of your support over the years. Hope you have found this show to be resourceful and helpful in many ways. If you're brand new here and you're like, what the hell am I listening to? This show is all about sex work and destigmatizing the industry, destigmatizing the work itself. So I do that by bringing different guests on every single week to talk about their world in the adult industry, in sex work. And I do that by, educating people for those who are listening at home and also really having a humanizing perspective from it. So this week we're speaking to some talent, which is really, really great. But other weeks, we might have people from sex worker organizations that are helping on the advocacy front. We also bring producers on, people behind the scenes, allies, even partners of sex workers, just to really, really get like a really accurate and transparent approach to what sex work actually is, what the work actually entails. There's no glamorization here. It's not the things you'd find on TikTok or anything like that. We do address that stuff and how it's problematic. But especially in today's topic is all about findom and femdom, online domination in general, which I'm sure is super buzzy. And as I was telling to Valentina earlier, we haven't done an episode like this since Vanessa Jolie, which is a few seasons ago. So we are going to be doing a wonderful refresher on this, and also just commenting on things that might have changed over the past few years as well. Amongst that landscape. So I did mention Valentina. She is our guest today, Valentina Fox, who is obviously a master in findom and femdom. I am going to be introducing her really soon, but I just want to say hello to our Patreon subscribers. Thank you again for financially putting your dollars into the show. All of your money goes towards hosting on my lovely website, which I need to update. So thank you so much for that. If you are interested in becoming a patron, you can find exclusive video access to all of the episodes from season 4 onwards. Over there, you can get early access to all of the episodes that are coming right now. We're about a month in advance, which is really great. So you get to all of that wonderful information way, 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 way earlier before the public does. There are bonus episodes which are no longer publicly available. So that, and you can kind of get a sneak peek on people I'm bringing onto the show, topics I'm hoping to tackle and source people on, and so much more goodies over there. So those who are on the second and third tier, you guys get a nice little fan recognition shout out. So I just want to say hello to those who are there. Our newest subscriber on that second tier is Reina, all the way from Sweden. Thank you so much for subscribing and finding the show. Sometimes I don't even know how far the show reaches, but that's really cool and awesome. We've got Dale Flood from Vancouver, BC. We also have Red Door Products. Hey, Dan, all the way from Seattle. We got McKenna King from Edmonton, Bia York from Seattle, Eric Arajo. I don't know where you are from, but you've been a long-term subscriber. Same with you, Geyser. And you've also got Snoo Snoo from Germany as well. So really great that you guys are contributing. And again, if you're interested, it's patreon.com/stripped by Sia. So moving back onto the show, I mentioned this is all about fandom, and also everything to do with online domination. We have our wonderful guest today, Valentina Fox, who is an XBiz and AVN nominated superstar, fetish clip producer, and model. And of course, yeah, she will dominate the shit out of you. So I'm super excited to bring her on. Valentina, super warm welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. It sounds great.
Yeah, and we're also very excited to have you on as well. As I mentioned, you are the expert today. You're in the hot seat today. Not hot seat, but like hot seat for me because I have to always turn off my air conditioning when I do these interviews because it's too
It's not
noisy.
like right on you.
Yeah, like at the end of this interview, for those who are watching the video, you'll just see me be a shiny, sweaty mess, and it's gonna be great. But we're not talking about that. Of course, Valentina, you are the star of the show today, and I just really wanted to highlight you. So I would like to throw it back to you to see how you might define yourself, because I always think it's important for everyone to have their own introduction, and you can go from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so I guess I always start with I'm a femdom content creator, financial dominatrix, and I guess I am an online dominatrix. I like hesitate to call myself like a dominatrix or a pro dom a lot of the time because like I'm not working in a dungeon or doing very many like in-person sessions. But I definitely am dominating people online. But yeah, so I usually start with femdom content creator, clip producer, and findom. And findom, financial domination, just kind of falls under the femdom umbrella.
Hmm. Yeah, and we'll definitely be defining all of those terms, especially if you're a brand new listener here and you're like, what the hell does that mean? And I'm in a different part of sex work and I don't know what that means. Don't worry, we'll be defining all the terms today later on. But maybe for now, Valentina, if you wanted to go ahead and get started in terms of telling us a little bit about yourself, getting the audience to get to know you a bit better, and tell us about like how you got and found yourself in the adult space.
Yeah, so I have been in the industry for about 5.5 years now. I was actually working in the industry as a makeup artist before that for like two and
Ah.
a half, 3 years. So I worked with a lot of like escorts, sugar babies, a couple pro doms, um, yeah, mostly like in-person sex workers, for photo shoots or for like events that they were going to. And so I was around the industry a lot before I was actually in the industry. Um, Especially I wish I could remember their names. One of them I do remember, and we did some shoots once I started as a Dom. But there was one Dom who I can never remember her name, but she told me to read the book called Hoe Tactics. Are you
Mm-hmm.
familiar with Hoe
I've heard
Tactics?
of that, yes.
Yeah, because I was kind of trying to like dip my toe in sugaring at the time. I had just moved to New York.
Ooh, hot place
Shortly
for
after I was
sugaring.
leaving. Yeah, exactly. And I was just getting a lot of attention, and I was like, I know there's a way I can monetize this. I'm just not really sure what I'm doing. Um, and then obviously being around like a bunch of successful sex workers and seeing like what was possible, and not just like what was possible, but just like all the different ways you could approach it, was really eye opening and made me more curious. Um, Honestly, it took me like longer than I wish it had to like take the plunge and finally join the online world. To be honest, I just was really worried about people I knew finding it, and I just like I knew if I wanted to do it, I wanted to do face out, but I also know that going face out comes with like a lot of risks.
Yes.
So I actually found the online findom community in like 2016, just like stumbled across it. I didn't actually join till 2019 though, so that's how long I was
Yeah.
like
That is a long
uh,
time.
just kind of, yeah, like I was working as a makeup artist at that time, like I said, dabbling in sugaring, it wasn't really for me. Um, and yeah, then my first sub ended up being someone that I knew and went to high school with, actually.
Oh
And
my gosh.
he was like just super simpy for me in high school. And, like his friends
Perfect.
would always tease him and whatever. He was like my friend,
Yeah.
just friend zoned. And then,
Permanently
like,
friend zoned.
exactly. And then after high school, like a few years after, like I think it was actually in 2016, when I found it originally. I remember he took me out to dinner that night, and I was like showing him, and I was like, this is insane. Like, all these women are getting paid for like bullying men. Like, this is crazy. I remember making a joke and being like, this is like what I do to you. Like, and he was like, he honestly didn't really seem to have that much of a reaction. Like, he was just kind of like, I was like, I could do this. And he was like, yeah, yeah, you could do it. Like, but it wasn't really, he didn't seem like really interested in it.
Okay.
And then like 6 months later, um, he started like messaging me and asking me to buy videos of myself laughing at him. Like, at first it just was like, can I buy a Snapchat of you laughing at me for like 10 seconds? And then it like escalated from there and became like, can I send you pictures of me to laugh at? Like, can I send you like embarrassing videos of me to laugh at?
Yeah.
And then like me making fun of him. He was a sissy, so it ended up
Mm-hmm.
like turning into a lot more. But yeah, my first like actual intro to it, like real life play, was with someone that I knew. And he was actually the one who really was pushing me, like, you really should get online, you really should try to like do this professionally. And he actually, after like 4 months of our kind of like casual play, showed
Mm-hmm.
me his Twitter. And he was like a professional sub. He had like 15,000 followers, which is a lot for a sub. um
Yeah, that is a lot. What the hell?
Especially a male sub who like isn't even showing his face or anything.
Totally. Wow.
But yeah,
Crazy.
so yeah, after a few months of him pushing, I finally joined the Twitter community in like 2019, and that was where I started.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh. Okay, so many things I want to talk to you about already. So going back to your humble beginnings and like, dabbling and sugaring. Oh my gosh. Like that was also my start in the industry too. And what a hard place to be.
Yeah, and just being on like seeking arrangements
Oh
and
my
just
god.
like
The
so many
trauma.
uncomfortable situations, or just like
Yes. Yes. Oh my
things I would never
god.
do now.
Yes. Same thing here. Like every time I hear seeking arrangement, I'm just like, oh my god, that
I
website.
know.
Like
Triggered.
trigger. Totally. I mean, I feel like it was a good and a bad thing in terms of like, okay, yeah, because I was also like dabbling my toes as well, and well, an old roommate had told me about it and stuff, and was like, I got out of a relationship, is the whole thing. But I mean, it was an interesting place because when you're like totally green, coming like as a civvy normal person going into the sex industry, like you don't know shit, and like there's so many precarious situations that I mean
Yeah,
I was in, and like
yeah,
things like my boundaries were super crossed, and was like, yeah, I'll do that for another like $500, and
yeah.
yeah,
That's why I hate seeking, because like anyone who
hmm
like actually wants like a professional sugar baby or a real escort, like, will go to those people. Like, the people on
yes.
seeking are just predatory and looking
Yeah.
for girls who don't have boundaries or
Yeah, or can like dangle the
are
carrot and
new.
be like, "Well, for this much money, can you do this? And would you be willing to do this?" Like, oh my gosh, never again.
Right. Where like a pro or like an actual escort would be like, no.
Yeah, they'd be fuck off, block, like don't talk to me again, do not call this number again. So yeah, I guess sounds like you have shared the same sentiments as I did as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we have thoughts and feelings about that website. Let's bury it at that. But I mean, it's really interesting your entry point into the world of doming because you knew someone. You had this friend. Like, it was kind of like handed to you in a certain way, and he was. I don't
Yeah.
want to use the word grooming, but I guess he was kind of like warming
Yeah.
you up to the idea, which is kind
Yeah,
of nice.
exactly. Because, like I said, our relationship was kind of like that already. Like, it wasn't like, obviously, it wasn't like really fetishy, but it was very much like me teasing him a lot and rejecting him all the time, and like playfully, but like was very clear like I would never date you, like I would never hook up with you. Um, and I like knew he was in love with me. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's definitely a good start, though. So, I mean, like, in a way, I mean, he kind of like showed you the ropes a little bit. He showed you a
yeah.
little glimpse,
Yeah,
which is
I'm happy that it
interesting.
was with someone that I knew too.
Hmm.
Because I know, yeah, I mean, same thing as like what we were just talking about with dipping your toe in sugaring. I think new doms struggle a lot with like boundaries, what kinks they actually want to participate in. Because
Hmm.
I originally opened myself up to almost everything, and I was like, oh, I can do any kink. Like I like, like, oh, I can do that. And now I have like a lot more that I won't do, or just ones that I prefer to focus on.
Hmm.
Um, so I am really happy that the first person that I was like really playing with consistently was someone I was super comfortable with and knew really well.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a big difference for sure.
Yeah.
A lot more comfortable too, especially when you're kind of just like wading your way and trying to like navigate, and you're like, I'm not really sure what this is, but it seems to be working. But at least
Right.
you were able to kind of find a little bit of your footing in the beginning with that. So, I
Mhm.
mean, along with that, that was your very first sub, which is a really amazing story. Um, then you got online, then you got, Twitter, and I'm sure some other websites and stuff as well. But tell us about, after that first sub, how was your journey in terms of navigating the world? Because honestly, it can be super overwhelming. And as I mentioned early in the show, being an online dom has its appeal for many reasons, and we can list them off here. But obviously, you're online, it could be any time of day, like the convenience, the safety aspect in a certain way. But yeah, those are just a few reasons. But let's
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I honestly, I feel like I got pretty lucky when I first started. One, just being in New York, like there were a lot more subs and other DOMs like accessible to me. Um, because I met up with my first sub only a few weeks into it. And like he bought a pair of my dirty shoes.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
And then he actually, we still talk like 5.5 years later. But yeah, he just ended up like we went shoe shopping a few times. He would like lick the bottom of my shoe in public, like get on his
Yes.
knees, which
Yeah.
like New York is like the perfect place to do
Yes.
something like
It's
that
just
because
a
people
regular
are so
Tuesday.
pleased. Yeah, um, yeah. And, like I had a few in-person subs that were my first like okay making like decent amount of money on them. Like the first subs that I was excited about were like the in-person ones because I was getting people sending me
Hmm.
like $20 and stuff online,
Yeah.
but nothing that was really um
Significant.
yeah, exactly. um yeah, and then I feel like honestly, my background with makeup helped a lot just because I have worked on a lot of like production sets. And so
Hmm.
I really understand like lighting and how to make good quality content. And so I think that my content stood out um, maybe more than some other people who are starting. Not to say I didn't put out bad content too. I totally did like the Snapchat filters phase and like
Didn't we all?
and it's like so obvious now when you look at it. I'm like, I don't know how anyone thought like no one could tell. Um, yeah, I feel like I did. I feel like Findom really kind of exploded online in 2020. So I
Totally.
think me joining in 2019 was really helpful
Hmm.
because I mean, the industry was definitely more saturated than it was, for example, in 2016 when I first found it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's nothing compared to where it is now.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, like, what do you think is to blame for that? I mean,
It's literally mostly TikTok.
yeah, it's a lot of TikTok. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of the stuff that's out there. I mean, do you feel comfortable
Yeah,
touching on some of that stuff?
yeah. I am not a fan. Like, I have a TikTok account for work,
Mm-hmm.
but my target is like submissives. Like, I'm not trying to target girls who could possibly be interested in this. Because I
Right.
know if I posted my monthly income or even just a few big sends or shopping trips from subs on TikTok and was like, hey, I just make this much amount of money bullying men and you can too. Then, like,
Oh
I
my
know
gosh.
videos like that, it's like instant viral.
Totally.
Um, but obviously, then like the main people that are watching that are like girls, mostly young
Young
girls.
girls, yeah.
Yeah, like mostly like high school girls. Um, and the worst part about those videos for me is that they make it like, oh, here's like this like fun little side hustle I've been doing. Like, they don't even like
Mm,
clarify that it's sex work. And it's crazy
yes.
how many of these new young girls I've seen, specifically in the findom community, being like, I'm not a sex worker. Like, you guys might be sluts or showing nudes or whatever for money, but I don't have to do that. And I'm like,
Oh my
you're a sex
god. Yeah, you're a
worker.
sex worker. Oh my god. The denial and like the separation between the two, or the attempt to separate, is like so problematic.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because people outside of the industry don't care. They see it all as the same. Like,
Totally. Yeah, I think that's like, as I mentioned, problematic because, like, you're kind of like putting yourself up against other sex workers and people that have been in the industry for a long time. You're like, well, I don't do this, so I'm
yeah,
not as like dirty as you or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's
not
not
sharing the
helpful.
stigma. Like,
Yeah, it's not helpful. And if anything, like, I feel like one of the best parts of being a sex worker is the sex work community, and like being able to be a part of that and like have conversations like this, or like have friends in the industry who can relate to your work. Like, most of my best friends at this point are other doms that I've met like through Twitter or through like other doms. But yeah, I really hate those videos, and they also make it look like findom is like a get rich quick thing, and like you can just make so much money so fast. And then it's also crazy because when I see like OG doms or people that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years speaking out about this and being like, it is not a get rich quick thing, then these like 18, 19, 20-year old girls are like, oh, these old women are just jealous of us. Like,
I know. And I'm like, no, it is not
no.
like that at all. It's just like, it's really sad because, like, yeah, it's like a lot of naysaying, and but you also see those people like really like burning through their money super fast as well.
Yeah. And I think a lot, especially when they're young, especially when like an 18-year-old girl joins the industry, like, I think a lot of people like subs may flock to her because it's like shiny new toy, like, definitely they get an influx, but most of them lose that after like a month or maybe 2 months, and they think that they're going to keep that like momentum, but then the next 18-year-old joins and on to her.
Totally. Yeah. And like, just not learning about like retention and trying to maintain the relationships of these subs and your fans or your clients and stuff. Like, it's a lot of work. They always forget to incorporate the work element out of like into the equation.
I feel like a lot of them, like, honestly forget that subs are people. Like, I feel like
Yes. Oh my
they're
gosh.
just these losers. They'll buy anything I want. And I'm like,
Yeah. I don't like when I'm doing when I'm doing some doming and fetish work. I I don't like seeing the blatant disregard for subs or clients.
yeah,
Like, it's I would actually say it's largely irresponsible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like subs think that it's hot at first. Like they'll see a tweet like that and they're like, "Oh, that's so hot." But then actually engaging with a dom like that is like they're not getting very much out of it.
No,
It's just
yeah.
like kind of generic, shut up loser, like pay me
No.
loser.
Totally. I don't know. Like there's an appeal to that, I'm sure, but doesn't it get old at some point? Maybe it gets old at some point. Who knows? But I mean, this is actually a really perfect segue to talk about your own personal doming style because there are so many different types of doms, and it's not all about the latex and being super aggressive and like abrasive. But I would love to hear like where your influence or your inspiration was doming, or where that even came from.
Yeah, I definitely it took me some time to figure that out. Um like I said, when I first joined the industry, I felt like I was trying to like engage in like every kink, like any kink someone had. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can do that. Like,
Catch
oh,
all.
yeah, yeah. And like I think that is one of the best parts about sex work too, is like it really teaches you your own boundaries and like what you're comfortable with and what you're not, and you have to get clear on that like really quickly.
Totally.
Um, Yeah, and I just realized, like, I mean, certain things about myself, like, really align with femdom. Like, I would say I'm definitely a female supremacist.
Hmm.
Like, I was just kind of raised that way in, like, a household that my mom ran, and my dad was always very submissive to her. And just the way he spoke about men was kind of like, oh, well, men are just stupid or men are easy for girls like you or whatever. Like, he would say things like that to me constantly. So I feel like
Ah.
I just kind of grew up with that view on the world.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, like a strong mother figure is actually really that can actually be a huge influence
yeah.
too. And such from an early on age as well. That
Yeah,
can influence you for sure.
yeah, exactly. And uh so I definitely like I stopped engaging in like home wrecking. I don't really do
Hmm.
because that just doesn't align with like being a female supremacist. Like
Totally.
maybe home wrecking in the sense of like I hope your wife finds out what a loser you are so she can leave you.
Yeah.
But never home wrecking in like
Like a
oh, I'm so
sneaky
much better than your wife, or
right.
she's so dumb or unattractive or whatever. Like that, and like humiliating someone that is not consenting and is not even involved is just not appealing to me at all. Um, and just, yeah, it doesn't align with like my own values. Um, yeah, and I feel like I was a little bit I felt like I had to be like much like harsher when I first started. Like I felt like even watching the way I spoke in my old clips, I don't really like it. I
Tell us like a little example in terms of like
don't
how
know.
like
I
your
feel like
early
I just
videos.
changed my voice a little bit. Like now when I speak in my clips, it's like more like this, like my normal speaking voice, and maybe like slow it down a little bit, but it's my
Hmm.
voice. I feel like before I don't even know what I was doing. I was like, "Oh, you what?" Like I don't know.
You're like, I can't even do it right now. I can't even do it anymore.
But I feel like I just wasn't as comfortable on camera yet, and I didn't really
Hmm.
know like my vibe dom wise. And yeah, most of what you see from dominatrixes in media are like very harsh women, like very like
Yeah,
um
the stereotype.
yeah, exactly. I do like that Findom is much more kind of bratty leaning and like
Yeah.
short little skirts and cute dresses and bows and like very girly. I love that
Yes.
kind of thing, and that's more my vibe.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I feel like the more I've leaned heavily into that, and just that I am a very playful person, and like I do kind of like to mess with people, like especially men, like in person. Yeah, I would say my dom style is very like sensual, playful, but definitely can be very cruel.
That's good
But I'm not
balance.
generally like super harsh when I say it. Like I'll say something really mean in like a really sweet tone, or like can be like, "You're gonna be a big fat loser forever." Like very
I
like
like
saying
that.
something even when it's cruel. Like I'm never like
Harsh.
super harsh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
I get that.
yeah, and I feel like that just I feel like that came when I just let my actual personality come into it instead of trying to be like what I thought a dom was.
Totally. And that's like a big thing in terms of sex work, when even myself, like when you're first getting started, you're just like throwing the spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks. But then as you get, I feel like the longer that you're in the industry, the more experience you gather. You're like, I actually don't really care for certain fetishes. Like, I don't care to cater to those services at all. And being more true to yourself and also incorporating your personality, like that's what people are subscribing to you for. That's what people are like being fans and clients and subs for you for, is for your personality. And I feel like sometimes there's so many personality less people out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually was talking about that with my friend the other day, or just like a lot of sex work pages that I'll see that to me like don't really have much sex appeal, like not very much seduction or play in it, just very
Mm-hmm.
like here it is, like
Yeah, or pay me, send me
right,
Venmo with this, cash out me
right.
that. Yeah, I see that a lot lately. Yeah, I mean it's and I mean that is also maybe because of, the generation that we're in and the landscape of online domination too. Again, like that I want to say it's just again that problematic view that like this work is just easy and it's just about like send me money and send me a tribute and blah blah blah, which we'll
Yeah.
get into shortly.
Yeah,
But
or girls that
yeah.
think that just because they're really pretty that they're automatically going to be successful, and it's like there's first of all so many beautiful women in the sex work industry, like
Totally.
that's not really like a rare thing in sex work.
No.
And also like there's lots of beautiful women who don't do well in this industry at all.
Absolutely. It looks as only one piece of the puzzle in this industry, but you need to have so much work behind it in terms of like, letting your personality shine, the branding, all the marketing that you do for yourself. We can go on and on about this, but yeah, it can't just be a pretty face because we're all pretty faces in the
Yeah.
industry. So like relying on that alone is not going to guarantee success for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, sorry, this is my fault for getting so deep into conversation, but like, let's like roll it back and also just define, first of all, what female domination is, and then we can also define what financial domination is. 101, halfway into the
Yeah.
episode, but here we are.
Yeah. So female domination is exactly as it sounds, a woman or yeah, she, her, female, whatever, um, dominating generally a man.
Men, cis men, yes.
Yeah. Uh, and that can look like a lot of different things. Like there are financial slaves, which is findom, so slaves who are like getting off on paying, are getting off on financial control. Some of them get off on financial ruin. And then there's like service slaves who will do things like come over, clean your house, take out your trash, do errands for you. Or there's like really there's so many different things like under the femdom umbrella, like obviously like pegging falls under that, like impact
Mm-hmm.
play, bondage, like
Fun.
all the like general BDSM things can fall under that, and it's just the woman is performing.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I mean, going more into financial domination specifically because we're talking about today, but like going into some of the terms that you said, like in terms like, like pay pigs and like those who are just wanting to be drained. Is there a big difference between financial ruin and just regular, I want to drain your
Like,
wallet,
right.
or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different kinds of financial domination,
Mm-hmm.
and I always say there's not very many like actual fin subs though. Like there are very few people who actually get off on spending money and who actually get off on that kind of power exchange. Mostly what I see is people who um will pay a lot more for femdom services for me, or will maybe fetishize paying that higher rate to access me, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they're actually financial submissives.
Mm-hmm.
So most like there's a few different kinds, I would say, of fin subs. There's some that are like they want their whole life finances. They want a dom to write them a budget for groceries. They want to maybe even have have a portion of their paycheck sent automatically to her, or even the entire paycheck. I've seen that the entire paycheck gets deposited in the dom's account, and then she will give the submissive enough for bills or necessities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like complete financial control. um that's less common, and honestly for me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do that kind of financial domination as much anymore, just because so many people in the findom space, like it is an addiction for them. So a lot of them
Yes.
are, it's very like cyclical, like they'll come back, I'm so dedicated, goddess, I want to do this, I want to serve you, I want to, can you do this, can you write me a budget, blah 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 blah, blah. And then 2 weeks later they're gone.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I
correct.
yeah, so I don't really generally do things like that much financial control anymore, just
Mm-hmm.
because I find that long term it is almost never worth it.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
honestly kind of just end up beating myself up. Why did I budget this guy's money for him instead of just taking as much as I could while he was here? Um,
Well,
because when
that
you're budgeting, you're assuming that they're gonna be continuing to pay you, but
yes. And then they run out of money and then they're gone and then they ghost and
right.
then they might come back though. Like I find they do come back after a bit.
Yeah. There's
Subs in
just so
general.
many reasons too. Like I've had subs like get caught like by a wife, or by like, or even by their mom if they live with their mom,
Oh
or
no.
like,
Oh.
or like just I like, or they just decide that they're gonna quit, or they're whatever. Like there's
Whatever
so many reasons
reasons.
that they decide to leave. The main thing that I get is like drains. So a sub will message and say like, "Goddess, I want to do a drain on Skype, or maybe we'll do video response sessions, or sometimes even like I go live a lot on Loyal Fans. So we'll do drains like on the live stream, or in like a private stream, and that is kind of more just like, then a lot of times they are fetishing like the power control. Like, I want you to send another 100. Now jerk to that. Like sometimes I'll make them jerk to the total amount that they've sent me, especially if it's high. Um, and that is my favorite kind of financial domination, is just drains. And then different subs have different levels of it. Like some subs I definitely have cleared bank accounts before, and I definitely have put people in debt before. I feel like I honestly don't know even accurately how many though, because a lot of them definitely lie about how much money they have, and a lot of them definitely have a financial ruin fantasy, but are smart enough to have like a separate bank account or something so that I can zero this bank account, but then they have
A
something
safety
else somewhere.
blanket. Yeah.
Right.
You would hope so. At least I hope
You would
so.
hope.
Yeah.
But not all of them do. Like I definitely have seen subs like pay real life consequences, for not paying rent, or not paying their credit card bills, or whatever, or just taking on too much debt.
hmm
Um, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like gambling. I feel like there is a certain degree of a responsibility on both sides.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about how,
Yeah.
how as a dom can you be responsible in not doing permanent financial damage to them? Can you even guarantee
I
that?
I can't guarantee that, because like I said, I don't like, a lot of them definitely aren't truthful with me about how much money they have, how many bank accounts they have, whatever, when they're getting paid. Because I mean, I'll have subs all the time say, "Goddess, I don't have anything left. I don't have anything left," and I'm like, "Okay, then I'm not going to talk to you." And they're like, "Wait, I'll send another 100." Like
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay."
The desperation.
Yeah, I definitely like, I don't really engage in subs if I can tell that they're like being super destructive, like self-destructive, and like I feel like it's coming from a healthy place. But I don't feel responsible for things like them wanting financial ruin and having that fantasy and not having a backup account and me not knowing their full financial story. Like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, they are a grown man,
I was just
and
gonna say that too. Yeah, we are all consenting adults, and you're consenting to this service and this type of play.
yeah,
So I feel like you should be trying to be responsible with
right.
that.
Like, if you have a financial root in fantasy, that would be my advice, would be have two bank accounts, at least.
Well, it's true. I mean, like, I feel there's a certain kind of like degree of safety that needs to be practiced with any kind of domination, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's like financial. There should be at some point, but at the same time, we cannot bear full responsibility for that. We can provide a little bit of heed some caution
Yeah,
here.
right. Or like subs, like I am definitely understanding when like my long-term subs tell me like something came up. Like I just had a sub recently have to leave because he has to pay for one of his family members' medical expenses. Like obviously, like I understand, like um but yeah.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I mean some people are so erratic though, and just like
Yeah. I mean, in general, I feel like subs, at least in my experience, subs in general, it's like a very cyclical thing. They are here for a bit and then they will disappear for a bit and then they come back and you're like,
yeah.
oh, hello again, stranger.
Yeah, exactly.
um, yeah, but at the same time, like, I feel like this show, when, like, I wouldn't feel great if I didn't talk about, like, with any form of sex work, that this money can be very temporary. And yes, you could have like a few whales come in and have a really successful week, and then the other week can be a little trickling stream
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
money.
That's definitely like one of the best and worst parts about sex work too. And like what I've noticed too is like, the longer you're in the industry, like the higher the highs get, and like maybe the lows aren't
Hmm.
so low anymore. But I
Yeah.
feel like it still feels just as low once you get like to new highs and then you're back down, you're like,
Like, what happened?
because a lot of the times in this industry, because of what you just said, like you don't see like constant progression. Like it's like my income is like
Yeah, literally, it's a roller coaster every single day for sure. Well, not every single day, but hopefully not every single day. But
yeah.
it can be very volatile for sure. Um, if we are also talking, and again, I'm just because there are also like a lot of fans and clients that listen to the show as well. But I would love for you to talk about what makes a good sub.
Um First, understanding that I'm a person and not messaging me 10 times if I don't reply within like 20 minutes. Like, understanding that I'm a busy person and I have a life outside of sex work, and I also have a lot of people I'm constantly messaging. So, being understanding and respectful of my time. Um, I also, the biggest thing, if you want to be, there's different ways you can be a submissive. Like you can play with me. We can do Skype sessions, we can do like JOI calls or humiliation calls or things like that. And that is you being submissive. That is not you serving me. That is you buying a product or a service. You buying my clips is not serving me. It's buying a
Yes.
product. Um and so being very clear on whether you actually want to serve a Dom or whether you want to play with a Dom, because both are generally fine. But if you approach a Dom and say, hey, I really want to serve you, I want to dedicate myself to you, and that means you want to have Skype calls, that's not
No.
serving. That's
Yeah.
not dedicating yourself. That's actually making me work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Correct.
so serving me would be messaging like, "Hi goddess, like I worship you. I woke up this morning, I watched some of your clips. I was just wondering, is there anything I can do today? Do you need something? Can I send you money for coffee? Is there anything you need done? Like I have some subs that do admin stuff for me. So like just asking if there's anything you can do for me to make my life easier, or buying things off of my wish list, or if I tweet about a reimbursement, jumping on it to reimburse things that you can afford, things like that that are actually tangibly serving me and making my life easier or better.
Yeah, that's a big difference. I'm glad you outlined that too, because people will get confused
Yeah. And
really
I
quick.
And like I said, myself and most doms that I talk to about this are totally fine if a sub messages and it's just, can I pay for Skype? Yes, you can, and then we'll play, and that's it. That's not you serving me. Um, but yeah, a lot of doms and myself included will get pissed off if you approach and are like, "I want to serve you." Actually, I just want to serve myself.
Big difference there. Yes, serving versus like playing slash supporting a creator is very
Right.
different. It's a different relationship, a different kind of power play involved with that for sure. In terms of service and pledging and tributes, can we also talk about that? Hello, is that it's a dog?
My dog. I think my
Cute.
cat just scratched her.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm sorry. Yeah, talking about like tributes and pledges and stuff too. Can we also maybe like define what that is for those listening that might not know what that is and what purpose that serves?
Yeah, so a tribute is basically just like, I consider a tribute like, well, most doms, myself included, will have like an initial tribute, which is like a price you pay to start talking to them. I tell people to think of that as like a professional consultation fee. Like with any professional, you would probably have to pay them at least $50 to do a consult with you. Um, but generally, going forward from that, like a tribute is just like a send, like sending for breakfast or sending whatever. Some people will call tribute like paying for Skype session, but kind of like I was just saying, that's not really a tribute. That's kind of just paying for a service. I consider a tribute like you're just sending for something that I asked you to pay for, or just sending like a gift or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, big difference too. And I know there's like also so many different things as well that comes with fees. I mean, I guess fees and rates in general, like unblock fees and
Yeah,
the access to you. Can you also talk about that as well?
yeah, so like I said, I have an initial tribute just to start talking, and then I have like Skype minimums, message minimums, like to message me on Loyal Fans, I think it's like $2 or something per like volley, so per back and forth. But yeah, I guess like yeah, and I definitely have done the unblock fee thing before. Like my unblock fee is generally $500. I love Loyal Fans for that reason because Loyal Fans actually has a setting that you can like have, like you can block someone but give them the option to pay the unblock fee so that they can see your account again. Like I
Yes.
love that.
They, all the sites need to have that.
Yeah. I wish Twitter had that.
Oh my gosh. That would be amazing. Also essential as well. But I
Yeah.
mean, I guess like the purpose of this point in the conversation is just talking about the topic of access to you and paid time for
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah,
important.
definitely. I'm at a point where, like I said, I have tons of submissives messaging me every day. Like, I only generally am responding at this point to people who are sending a tribute or who are approaching with money. Like, if someone asks, like, maybe a simple question, like they just need help with something or something on my website, I'll generally answer those types of things, no problem. But if they're asking, like, about a fetish related thing or they want to talk something fantasy related, like, you have to pay for that access. I have like over 600 clips like people can engage with if they don't want to pay me directly or pay more to talk directly. But yeah, it's very frustrating. I have had subs, like recently I had a sub the other day actually, like reach out after, I guess we haven't talked in 3 or 4 years, and he was like, "Oh, we used to play like," he was like, "Tell me all the clips that you want me to buy. Like, tell me all that. Like, tell me all this." And like, or like something. I was like, "Why don't you approach with a tribute? Like, if we haven't talked in a while." And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna buy clips." I'm like, "Okay, but if
Hmm.
you want me to hand pick things for you and play with you while you're watching those clips, that doesn't come for free
Free.
with paying for the clip."
Yeah. No. Some people think like that though. They just like, oh
Yeah,
well,
he's
I'm
like,
already
"Well,
buying it.
yeah." I'm like, "Oh, you paid 11.99 for a clip that I keep 8.99 of that I worked for 4 hours on. Like,
Yeah.
thanks."
For nothing.
Right?
I know, and I'm not even trying to chastise people, but maybe I am a little bit because
Yeah,
like there has to be some kind of understanding here. If you are a sub, a client, a
Yeah.
fan that is asking for our free time, the general answer is no.
Yeah, the general answer is no. I don't, and I honestly feel like I'm nicer than a lot of other DOMs that I see because, like I said, I will
Mhm.
answer some questions, or even I will send a reply and say, if you want to talk, why don't you send me a tribute? Oh, my friend
Totally.
just got my dogs.
Yeah, do
Um,
your thing. If
it's
you need a
okay.
minute to if you need a
No, she's
minute.
okay.
Okay, I was like,
Um,
as long as she's
I
okay. We're almost done here. We're almost
just
done.
lost my train of thought now. Wait, what was I saying?
No, but yeah, like the general answer is no. Like I just
Oh
feel
yeah,
like people are just not understanding that like we
yeah.
time is money
A lot
at the
of
end of the
DOMs, or what
day.
I was saying is, a lot of DOMs that I've seen won't even reply at all to any of those kinds of messages if there's not money attached, and will tweet things and be like, "I saw your message. If you're not going to send, I'm not reading it."
Totally. Totally. I mean, I would love to hear, and like I don't want this is coming off as like we're shitting on subs. We're not. I'm just really again trying to educate
Yeah,
people what like the etiquette around approaching a dom is, because
yeah.
I just feel like people just don't know.
Yeah, definitely some people don't know, and that's why I will usually send the message and say, "Hey, like if you want to talk about this, you can send me a tribute and we can chat." Um and like a lot of times they will once I say that. Because I do get a lot of people that haven't really done this before and are really inexperienced approach me. So yeah, I'm not going to be upset with them if they reach out and then I ask them to correct themselves and they do. Like that's fine. My issue is then them acting entitled to talk to me because they bought one clip or something.
And it happens, unfortunately. This happens to like any, not even just people in findom and femdom, but also just like in sex work in general. Just
Hmm.
yeah, it's a serious source of contention for sure.
Yes. Or like someone buys like a custom clip and then thinks that they can talk to you every single day until like they get that. Like,
You're like,
no,
no, no, no. It doesn't
no.
work. It doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe we'll try to end on a positive note, but like, what are, we can provide some examples, maybe like, who are some of your favorite subs? Like, what kind of things do they do to you? What makes you really happy as a
Yeah.
fandom? Obviously, besides getting paid, that's the obvious, but like,
Yeah. I love I have one really big whale who loves to just clear out my wish list, like loves to see me wearing expensive things that he's bought, loves seeing how much money he spent. Like he just fetishizes spoiling me. So that is probably like the hottest the hottest thing. Like just fetishizing spoiling me. But I have some long-term subs who are like super considerate of me, and like they'll just send me little gifts because they know my taste, or like they're always the first to buy my clip when I put out a new clip, or just like the first to comment a nice thing when a company posts about me. Like those things mean a lot too. Like it's not always monetary things, although that is definitely at the top. Like the fan support means a lot to me as well, and just yeah, and also like I said, I have some subs who do admin stuff. I've also had like tasked subs with doing things like making like edits for me to post like compilation video like clips of my videos.
love that.
Yeah, like I can just tell when I'm talking to a sub, like whether if they're genuine or not. Like I you can just tell when someone is being a really sweet boy and they're just like, "Oh yeah, goddess, like let me know if there's anything I can do. Like I'll patiently wait here for your response. Like I just if there's anything I can get you or send for, like please, like that is just so nice." And then yeah, like there is the flip side of that of people who are just constantly asking for things. So it's really hot to me when subs are very clearly care about what I want, what they can do for me, and see me as a person as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. And like, we were talking briefly about like retention and loyalty too. And like, they're subscribing to you for a reason. They're wanting to serve you for a reason. I mean, do you have any tips and tricks for those who are listening who might be in fandom and femdom, but also just really trying to retain more of their subs as opposed to like what we were mentioning earlier? They're here for a little bit and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Like,
I think getting away from the like super generic like humiliation, like you're a loser,
Yeah.
pay me, pay pig, whatever, things like that. Like again, like that can be really hot at first or even in some sessions, but it will get old and there's nothing really special about that. Like they can get that from anyone. So I usually ask a lot of questions. Like one of my favorite questions to ask is like, what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
when was like your first experience with a woman that you felt submissive? Like you, a lot
Mm.
of them is so young too. Like a lot of people have
Yes.
such young experiences with that.
From
Um,
childhood, I
yeah, like
find.
or just like I've heard people like with pantyhose, for example, like talk about, oh, I remember my mom putting on her pantyhose every day, and just
Yeah.
like that's where it started. Like,
Yes. Totally.
um, yeah, so and things like that, and then things asking questions like that, I think just makes them open up to you more, and then you can keep notes. Or I honestly have a really good memory generally, like so I can remember things about people. And that definitely makes a huge difference, you know, like if someone I haven't spoke to in 6 months comes into my live stream and I'm like, oh hey, like how's that job going, like you still with your girlfriend, like things like that, like that they're like, oh my god, she like remembers. um yeah, I think getting to know them on a more personal level, and you don't have to be super personal yourself, but I think just like asking them more personal things and maybe sharing small things about yourself. But I also do think it's important for doms to have boundaries with subs and
Absolutely.
not trying to be everyone's best friend, or not trying to open up too much
Mm-hmm.
to clients.
Yeah, in general, there should like, and I also believe that there should be some kind of boundary just for safety reasons. But I think it's really great to exercise that personalization aspect because yeah, it's a lot easier to formulate conversation and scenarios with that as opposed to like what we were saying earlier, like oh yeah, you lose your pay pick, like that kind of stuff. Like how many times can you reinvent the wheel for that kind of terminology? Like I don't
Right.
know. It gets tricky, I would say, because how often can you say that before it gets boring for them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then they'll just move on to the next person who can say the exact same thing.
Yeah, not what we're looking for longevity purposes, at least.
Right.
But I mean, I really hoping that this was a good episode, an eye-opening episode for those listening, because again, we haven't really talked about this particular topic in a couple seasons already. I think it was season 4 since we last talked about it. But before I let you go, Valentina, where can we all find you?
So my Twitter or X is I need Valentina. My website is I need Valentina Fox or I need Valentina.com. Um, and my preferred area of contact, if you want to reach out about serving me, is loyal fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Low Fans is great. We are going to be posting all the links. They are in the show notes below. So if you haven't clicked already, do so. Maybe get some Valentine, some new fans, some new subs as well. But for everyone else listening at home, if you want to get in touch with me, it's Stripped by Sia on Twitter or X, Strip by Sia podcast on Instagram. Again, I mentioned my Patreon earlier. It's patreon.com/stripped by Sia. And if you want to be in the show, it's strippedbysia.com. Just go ahead and click the contact button there. You can fill in the fields. You could fill in the form. You can pitch yourself. I'm always looking for new great topics. I'm really, really proud of all the episodes that I've been making so far for this season. It's probably my favorite season yet. And yeah, if you're enjoying all the free content and resources, please rate 5 stars on Spotify, on Apple. I always forget to mention YouTube, but yes, you can listen to the show on YouTube. We have been for all of season 7 so far. So do your homework. That's how people can find out more about the show. And I just want to thank you, Valentina, for coming on to the show today to share your expertise on this topic and the insight and perspective that you've given us. And hopefully that the audience have found some good value in these nuggets of wisdom you've shared. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you. And everyone else, we'll see you all in for another episode next Sunday, dropping at midnight. Thank you. listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, music by Ted D, graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Daverin.